Hello everybody, great to be here. My name is Victoria Hume. I'm the Executive Director of the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance. I'm a middle-aged white woman and I'm in a sort of beige room. I'm wearing a grey jumper and a scarf and I've got dark hair.
Hi everybody, my name's Fiona. I'm the National Coordinator at the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance. I'm a white woman with pink curly hair, wearing a black jumper and black rimmed glasses in a very dark room.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Coulter. I'm Director of Arts and Health South West and also Director of the National Centre for Creative Health, and I'm a older white woman with grey hair and a blue jumper, and I'm sitting in quite a green room.
Brilliant, thank you both. So we've come together today because Arts and Health South West is closing down this year, and Arts and Health South West has been around for many years, and I know we'll talk about that history shortly, but it's been a sort of beacon for the whole creative health sector for a long time, and it felt important that we acknowledge this really big change in the fabric of creative health in the UK. The impact that Arts and Health South West has had in the Southwest has been very obvious, not just the sheer volume of work that's now happening, but also the innovation and the strategic work that's happened there. And maybe most importantly, how much having a network has built the confidence and the sense of community amongst people working in creative health in the Southwest. So I know you've been running events in the Southwest over the last little while to think about that legacy, but we thought it was important just to set the scene a bit and describe Arts and Health Southwest's role in the national picture as well. Part of our reason for doing this is that the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance wouldn't be here at all if it weren't for Arts and Health Southwest. And although the networks that brought CHWA together were always national, for many years they were largely voluntary, and it was Arts and Health Southwest who led the bid to fund CHWA and who hosted us, sort of incubated us as an organisation, if you like, for about 3 years as we slowly developed into an independent entity. And that is similarly the case with the National Centre for Creative Health, which Arts and Health Southwest also hosted and supported towards independence. The third really important group is the all-party parliamentary group for Arts, Health and Wellbeing. The board and the director of Arts and Health Southwest, Alex, acted on behalf of the then voluntary National Alliance and provided the secretariat support for the APPG for many years. And during that time, Alex also managed the inquiry that built the Creative Health Review in 2017. And that review really underpins all of the work that we're now doing. And it was a real game changer, as anyone who's been working in this field for a while knows, because it landed so well with policymakers and with colleagues in health and local government, and it's still extremely influential. So all of that speaks to the kind of generosity and the knowledge and skill in Arts and Health Southwest, and it's never been a territorial organisation at all. It's always been about doing what's necessary, whether that's national or hyper-local, to make sure that more people benefit from the work. So that's my scene setting, and I wonder, Alex, if you would tell us a bit about how Arts and Health Southwest started.
Yes, I mean it is so interesting actually, the history of the field. And when I first became involved in Arts and Health Southwest, I was arts coordinator at Dorset County Hospital, and I'd come into that post when they were developing an art collection, really, a series of commissions for a new build for the hospital. And I came in a part-time post, and then a lot of my early experience was in that hospital environment. And another dimension to the field, which many of you will be aware of, is the network of arts in hospitals managers that is now stronger than ever. But at that time, there weren't so many. There were maybe a handful of hospitals around the country, some very well-known ones like Chelsea and Westminster, that had arts managers. So in the Southwest, Arts Council at that time was very interested in this work, and they actually suggested that a number of arts managers from hospitals got together to discuss the potential for a network, and I was in that group. And we worked with someone called Ruth Hecht, who is based in the Southwest, who I still know, and she did a report for the Arts Council called Shared Territories in 2005, which really she interviewed lots of people and she analysed the need, and came up with the basic framework for setting up a network. And so together we set up that network, and it was launched in 2006. And I was actually the first chair of it. I can remember the meeting when we launched it and introducing the idea and so on. So that started, and there was a part-time coordinator running it, and it was a paid membership organisation at that point, interestingly. I then sort of stepped back for a few years and was carrying on with my work in the hospital. And then Jane Willis, who many of you know also, was chair of Arts and Health South West, and she managed to secure funding from Arts Council to develop the organisation and to create a director post, a part-time director post, which I applied for and got, and that was 2010. So a lot of my intimate knowledge of Arts and Health South West comes from 2010 onwards, really. And one of the things that have been really influential in my entry into this field was going to a big international conference in Manchester in 1998, run by Peter Senior, who is one of the founding fathers of the arts and health movement in this country. And it was a completely eye-opening, exciting, thrilling experience where I realised that I was part of this international movement, social movement really, and it was really very inspiring, and I wanted to do something similar in terms of an international conference. So one of the big things we did at the beginning, early on, was the 2013 Culture, Health and Wellbeing International Conference. But by that time I was part of this national group that Victoria's mentioned, the National Alliance for Arts, Health and Wellbeing, which was made up of people who had all sorts of different day jobs. Well, Clive was an academic, Deborah was running an organisation. There were lots of, Victoria was in that group. There were lots of delivery organisations in it, but they represented different parts of the country. The only other network that was more localised was London Arts and Health Forum, which, as it was then, run by Damien Hebron. So he was also part of that group. And in fact, Damien took on a bit of a leading role in terms of getting this national alliance going. So the first international conference in 2013 was really, again, on behalf of that national alliance. And they were in the committee that helped us set it up and plan it and so on. But Arts and Health South West and our board did hold the financial and administrative responsibility for that. So that was a really big event for us. And then we were doing lots of stuff regionally. Obviously, the networking element for people working in the field was always a really important part. And we had annual conferences, which were our members. By that time, we'd moved away from a paid membership and wanted to be more inclusive, so it became free. And in 2013, we got, or maybe 2012 even, we got our first national portfolio. It wasn't called national portfolio then. Our first core funding, 3-year core funding from Arts Council. So that really helped us establish ourselves as quite a stable organisation. And we went on to get MPO funding until we didn't get this in this last round. So that was I'm trying to do the maths. I'm trying to think how long we had Arts Council funding for. It was at least 10 years. And, you know, we are extremely grateful for that. And I did say when we didn't get it this time that, you know, I recognise the importance of them looking at where their investment went and reconsidering that. And so I think there are a lot of arguments about why our time had come, if you like. And I do like to think of it as positive in terms of an ecosystem metaphor, and that our work is sort of, you know, the falling leaves forming the mulch and helping to create the next iteration of all of this work around the country. So obviously it's very sad that we're closing, but I do think there are some ways of looking at it that are more positive.
So just thinking about kind of your time at Arts and Health South West, what would you say are some of your sort of personal and also organisational sort of highlights and achievements that you want people to be remembering as you kind of move on?
Well, it's interesting, that thing about remembering, isn't it, and legacy, because so much gets churned into the next phase of things. And I hope a lot of people who experienced any of those things that we did, whether it was involved in the various projects we did regionally or particularly the international conferences, that they carry with them the legacy of that work, because it's extremely difficult to hold that legacy in a way that's very visible. I mean, I do feel, for me personally, the international conferences were major, I don't know about major achievements, but just really important events for me personally, and for a sense of connection across the world with other people working in this way. But those relationships and connections sort of come and go, and you know, it's very hard to hold on to them. Everyone is so busy, and I would love to do another international conference at some point. I don't know whether Chua is up for that, but some of the projects, you know, when I look at the projects we did, I like to think, or rather my attention goes to what was the legacy of those, or what's still happening that came about because of those. And quite early on, we were working in a way that, you know, was sort of social prescribing essentially, and we were doing work in Weston-super-Mare that was very definitely social prescribing relatively early on, before NHS England you know, pushed into the 10-year forward plan and all the rest of it. So so there's some interesting work that came out of that, and that led to our current project, Reach In, Reach Out, which is a partnership with museums and arts organisations. Some of those relationships carried forward into that project. We did, for quite a few years, we were very focused on dementia in acute hospitals. I think that was partly because I came out of an acute hospital, and dementia was such a growing sort of high profile issue and challenge in the region and nationally, and how people who had dementia then experienced having to go into hospital for any number of other reasons. And so we did a project actually with nearly all the hospitals in the southwest that had arts coordinators, which were quite a few, called the Arts and Dementia Care in Acute Hospitals programme, which was working with nursing leads and arts coordinators and delivering work in the hospitals. And then that sort of morphed into something called Music for a While, which was with the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra and Winchester hospitals in Winchester, Portsmouth and Poole. And a very interesting research project on that. That was obviously focused on music, led by Norma Dakin, who was based at Winchester University, which you know, was really, and then I think the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra have gone on to do more of that work. They have a very strong focus on dementia, and they've worked with other hospitals in the region. So it's quite nice to look at those threads and see where they seem to be going now. It's quite a, you know, it is a very organic process, as we all know. And then you know, as Victoria said, quite a lot of my energy and my time over the years has been focused on the national infrastructure, and that was, you know, seeing the potential for the work in the southwest and through Arts and Health Southwest, but knowing that the rest of the country, apart from London, didn't have that support, and so working with the colleagues in the National Alliance for Arts, Health, and was it Arts, Health and Wellbeing, or Arts and Health anyway? NNAH, Arts and Health.
I think there was a W in there.
And then with Helen Chatterjee, because she'd set up a project which then developed into a network for museums, health and wellbeing, and bringing those two together to form the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance seemed a really important development, so that there was more support for the practitioners across the country. Meanwhile, of course, and it started in the 2013 International Conference, and have to mention Lord Howarth here, because he really was the driving force behind setting up the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Arts, Health and Wellbeing, which he announced at the International Conference in 2013, and then asked us, the National Alliance, if we would provide the Secretariat. And yeah, I ended up providing the Secretariat essentially, because I suppose I thought I had capacity. I'm not quite sure how I did all these things. But anyway, that then led to me project managing the Creative Health Inquiry. Interestingly, Victoria, you referred to it as the review. That, of course, is the most recent publication, the Creative Health Review, which came out last year, which picks up on the inquiry report and focuses in on one recommendation from the inquiry report, which was that there should be a cross-government strategy, which of course we didn't achieve. But anyway, I'll come back to that. Yeah, so meanwhile we were developing the APPG, and the Creative Health Inquiry, which I think has had an extraordinary impact, and I had no idea that it would have that impact. So it has been quite a roller coaster. And then setting up the National Centre, which of course was also a recommendation in the original Creative Health report. So that national infrastructure thing, feeling like if we're going to develop as a field, we really need to have more infrastructure, we need to have more recognition, we need to develop our networks and influence upwards. I think it's interesting when you come from grassroots and you believe in the power and the energy of the grassroots, but you can see that it's a difficult route up, and then coming in through the all-party parliamentary group at a sort of much higher level of influence, how those things can meet. And I do believe you need both if you really want to effect change, which is, in a sense, the National Centre's mission is to effect change in systems, culture change essentially, so that the kind of work we all do is better supported and welcomed in and understood and valued, and ultimately challenging the sort of medical model on every front. And not to say it's, medicine doesn't do amazing things, but to rebalance the understanding of health and an understanding of what we need as human beings, a more holistic approach to our health and well-being and so on, which everyone knows. But I do think you need top-down influence as well as grassroots energy to make that effective. So that's where a lot of my time and energy has gone in the last few years, of course. More questions?
Yeah, amazing, thank you. And I know you've chatted a little bit about sort of legacy for you, sort of as Arts and Health Southwest kind of winds down. What are your kind of hopes and visions for not just for the Southwest, but for sort of creative health across the country, sort of going forward, do you think?
Well, I do think that even though there's a lot in the Southwest, and it was interesting, we had an event a couple of weeks ago, a networking event for people to talk about what they wanted for the future. And there is a lot around local networking that they want. People want that. And obviously there isn't really an organisation that can provide that. But there were lots of people in that meeting who offered different ways of connecting and keeping people connected. And also we had Alexis there, who works for Arts and Health Southwest, but is also now a Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance regional champion, and Gemma Aldred from Dorset, who is also a champion. And I think both of them were offering a way forward for that networking legacy. Because in a sense, the thing that Arts and Health Southwest holds is the mailing list. That's like you can't just hand that over to people. So that networking function, I think a lot of different people will help to pick that up. And I think Jane Howard, who works in Cornwall, said that, their networking at a Cornwall level is a lot about dividing up responsibility, so people take more responsibility for their own networking. And I think, hopefully that is one route for people to maintain that network and be more connected perhaps into the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance than they might have been when they had Arts and Health Southwest. Then I think that nationally, of course, all the work you're doing and then the work of the National Centre is about that national infrastructure. And our Creative Health Associates programme is currently our sort of mechanism for that development work in places in the regions. And Penny, who is the Southwest Creative Health Associate, Penny Calvert, who was also a hospital arts manager. I mean, I think she still does a bit of work for Salisbury Hospital, was there at the event as well. Those posts aren't permanent, and we don't yet know what the future for them might be, but that work around their focus is rather like the National Centre, more into the systems, into health systems, integrated care systems and so on, whereas of course Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance is more focused on the if you like, the provider landscape. And I think working collaboratively, which we all do, is the way to try and lock. Again, it's not government level to grassroots, it's kind of grassroots through to systems level at place, isn't it? We've got to try and find means of locking those things more into place, so that there is more support, more sustainability for the work. I think the sustainability of the work is the biggest challenge, and arts organisations and artists survive extraordinarily difficult times, don't they? And they sometimes perhaps they even flourish in these very difficult times, but we all know it is an extremely difficult time in terms of money and support, and I think we're all what's the phrase, beholden on all of us to try and make progress on that front. How can we shift things so that money flow is more effective in terms of supporting community level delivery? And there are a lot of people talking about it, and there's lots of things to think about, and it seems a really knotty problem, but I just think we have to put our effort into that amongst other things. And just another thing to mention that comes up, and I know that you're concerned with it, is around not only health inequalities, but equity generally, and inclusion and access. And I think that territory is really important priority for all of us, and that we need to really, understand what we can do to help in that space as well.
Thanks, Alex. That's brilliant. So just to sort of tie things up, as you said, Arts South West is closing down, but Alexis is carrying on as a voluntary regional champion for the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance, along with Gemma Aldred. Penny Calvert is the Creative Health Associate for the South West, and Arts South West Cornwall is still running, with Jane Howard leading that organisation. And we'll put links to all of those on the YouTube page. But if you're looking for a network, we would love you to be involved with. Try in whatever way you'd like to be, really. So we'll leave the link to join us there as well. And I think that's where we'll leave it for now, unless anybody's got any final words.
No, I mean,
Okay.
it's a long story. I sometimes think when I talk about I'm talking about the history of Arts South West, and I feel like I've not mentioned a whole bunch of people who were really significant in this field. But I think we could do more around the history of the field. It'd be interesting.